Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Geeky Pod with Manas. I know it's been quite some time that I've uploaded a new episode, but here I am with a new episode this time. And today's episode is very important. Recently, the class 10th and 12th results were declared. It can be from state board, CBSE, or ICSE. And with that came a lot of pressure on the students mainly. So there were good students who scored really good marks, and there were students who couldn't score that much as expected. However, in this episode today, we have two guests along with us who also had similar phase. Even I also had the similar phase. They are my friends, and we also have undergone this pressure in class 10th and 12th and to score good marks and to stand in the expectations of the society. So in this episode we have talked about how the societal pressure uh, dictates how your score should be like. So in this episode we have talked about topics like how one should not worry about their marks, and what are the sectors like private sector or government sector or graduation, in which sector this marks really matter and which sector it doesn't matter at all, and whether skills that one should carry forward from their school life to college life and then to the career really matters, or the grades only dictates in which direction your career is going to go. So all this discussion and many other things like in a career you should not become stagnant, you should always have a plan B to fall back on. All this we have discussed. However, the core point of this conversation remains the same, whether it's marks or your skills, which matters the most on the long run. So enjoy this podcast and like, share, and subscribe to this episode if you think it may benefit someone at some point of time. As we start this conversation, so this conversation is fully dedicated to the career after you complete your plus 2 and after you complete your class 10 examination. So before we jump into the detailed discussion, let us start with our percentages. I'll go
Let's
first.
keep it. Let's
I
keep it
no,
secret.
I'll go first. So it's not about like that's what we are trying to portray to the world, right? So even if you get less marks in the plus 2 examination, that doesn't matter in the long run. That's what we are
No,
trying
but
to
then,
portray.
but then it creates a bias. Like those who haven't achieved good marks, how they are going to kind of promote getting good marks.
No, no. If you want, I can skip it. Otherwise,
No, it's
it
okay.
will be like
I'll
a
tell
non-transparent
mine.
one, right?
No, it's okay. I mean, uh,
Okay. Then
let
okay.
let's have the biased opinions. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's start with Rajarshi. Yeah.
I'll share my class 10 and 12 percentage just because of the transparency of the issue. I just want to point out that when we gave class 12 exams, then board exams were actually took the back seat, and it was the joint entrance exam which was more important. So, class 10 exams, in class 10, I was from CBSE board. So, I scored around 93%, which seems like a lot, but in CBSE board, it's definitely above average, but it's not very high five. So, in my school in Agartala, which is a very small state, it seemed very high, but compared to all India standard, it was above average, pretty above average. At on class 12, I scored around 84% marks, but class 12 marks I don't think was considered anywhere except my college admissions, in which I think 65 above 65% marks was enough in class 12. So it was the joint JE rank which mattered more, and I did not do much well in JE, so I'll not disclose the rank specifically, but it was not enough for me to get a good IIT to baad good NIT even. So our NIT was good definitely, but I got it through state quota. So that's my 10 and 12 percentage story.
Yeah. Over to you, Nirupam. Then I'll come to
Yeah.
mine.
So, yeah, no issues. Yeah. So coming back to percentages, right? I think yeah. So my background is from the state board, which is like Tripura Board of Secondary Education, which we call it formally, or more like CBSE, or sorry, TBSE and all. So yeah, for me, 10th it was like somewhat between 83 and 84%. I don't remember those decimals. I mean, yeah, now. And Yeah, in 12th it was 75. So yeah, that's pretty much. And as Rajarshi mentioned, I think, yeah, it's pretty significant to call out that for 12th, those who at least at our stage, those who were eyeing at going for some professional courses, like either it be the medical line, or with for I mean following MBBS and all, or be it the engineering course, wherever from an NIT, IIT, or whatsoever the college is. I think the entrance examination has kind of got much more precedence, and it used to be like a higher priority. Same was for me. Interestingly for us, those who were from state boards, and there was a very, I'll say there was a very little overlap in terms of the way we used to prepare for kind of all those all India entrance examinations versus the board which we were catering to or coming from. Yeah, I mean, kind of a disclaimer to justify my lower ranks, maybe, or numbers, maybe. Yeah.
So that's what we're
Going
going
back
to,
to,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
going back to joint entrance rank or like these things. Yeah, it was the ranks and numbers are pretty insignificant, but they were sufficient enough to uh, get a seat from an NIT in my desired uh, branch, I would say. So let's keep it up to that.
Right. So now coming to mine. So actually, I'm also from CBSE as Rajarshi. So we were from same board. But that time, I think even though as he rightly mentioned, I got in my class 10th 92%, 0.33 something. So, but as he mentioned, right, it may look like, oh, more than 92, 90. So it doesn't match that much actually. We know the standard because if you compare with some other tough board exams, it's nothing. So that was the scene. Then after that, again, all of us got involved into the entrance examination. I also went for that lot of coachings and all. So my 12th exam suffered like anything. So it came down to 73%. So that's how it came. From then on, luckily the entrance examinations clicked, and even though not by national quota, from state quota we got into NIT and so on. So now coming to the point where we want to discuss that how much this result matters on the long run. So we passed out in 2011 and so on. 2015 we completed our graduation. So from then on, if you see now it's 2024, how much does this, as per you, how much do you think the I'm talking about career point of view, when you take interviews or you go for interviews, or when you see people around you giving interviews, how much the score matters for them in the current scenario for 12th and 10th? Rajeshi.
Well, for me, I would say that the class 10 marks and the class 12 marks reflect just one exam, right? That is just one exam in the life of a person out of so many exams. And the transition that one faces from class 10 to 11 is so remarkable. If you take the science stream, it's insane. Like when I got this high percentage in class 10, I was like, Acha, okay, I'm the rock star. I know everything of science. I'm the new Einstein. Then class 11 came and I faced those Puliwala questions in physics. And there was this monkey that was going on up and down in this elevator. That monkey gave me high blood pressure. And whenever I studied, I took tuitions from Dipindu sir. And it's like, the interesting thing is that it's not like everyone is not getting it. It's not like everyone is lost. There will be one or two these stupid people who actually get this. They are not stupid people. They're actually more brainy than us, but they are the reason for more tension in our brain that, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I just scored so much number. Is this all false? Am I not as smart as I thought I would be? So coming from that, faced with that disadvantage, there are a lot of students I have seen who have scored very well in class 10, but somehow their studies, their focus has derailed in class 11 and 12. There are several other factors also in class 11 and 12. We just are starting to grow up, and there are other things happening around us. So sometimes there are distractions, and fortunately, during our time, there was no social media was not as penetrative as it is now, and internet was not that much of an issue. But we also faced an issue where our joint entrance preparations were not as far as whatever a tier 1 city student might have the facilities that they have, because we coming from a like small city, we just had access, and we went to go give exams in access, and we got results from there. And again, it was concentrated into a very small part of India, so we had no big picture of what was coming. Definitely, career of a student is shaped by his class 11 and 12, what stream he takes. Like preliminarily, I think for some, if they scored low marks in class 10, it becomes a blessing in disguise if they don't get the science stream, because maybe the art stream is better for them. Maybe the commerce stream is better. I now have a better outlook. I meet with people. There are so many CAs who are doing as well as us, maybe better than us. They did not take the science field, but they are doing good. But in our case, what we see, and mostly in the eastern part of India, there is this craze for taking the science thing. So for getting science, the class 10 results is important, but it's not that you won't get science if you don't score 95% or something. There are so many schools which are catering to this idea that you don't have to come to school, you just prepare for JE and I will give you attendance and stuff like that. Then you prepare for JE, and class 12 results, I won't say would matter at all. Like just as I said, as compared to JE, class 12 results were very insignificant. It was like just qualifying, just passing criteria for this. So after that, we got into engineering and turning the life around, turning our life around, becoming something out of the mainstream, or doing something significant, I would say, can depend upon when you are choosing to do it. If you are peaking too early, there is a time when a child or when a kid peaks. There are people who you will see they have come first from class 1 to class 5, but then they like slope downward. There are some who scored very high in class 10. There are some who scored very high in class 12, but then they suffered in their college time. So it's very important that you peak at the right time. And but at the same time, it's also important to know that even if it's a little bit later in your life, it's okay. You can do better. You can turn it around, and you can be successful. The class 10 and 12 is not as much a definition as a platform.
Right. So, Nirupam, what do you feel that the marks that we have scored during that time and the marks the current generation is, I'm saying current generation making us older generation. Yeah, it's a decade difference, but yeah. So current students, they are passed out. Recently, results were announced for ICS and CBSE and state board as well. So how much that will matter to them in the long run, and where do we stand on that?
Yeah, I think you reminded me we are getting older. I think, yeah, thanks for that, first of all. Honestly saying, I have stopped kind of tracking those results and all of these things, and I believe everybody goes for the same phase. So as we were approaching, right? So I think we all probably were tracking how much is getting scored here and there, what's the benchmark which is getting set, etc., etc. We'll have to do these, that, and kind of all of those stuff. So I think we can get into those stuff in some different conversations or different parts of this conversation. But honestly, answering. Yeah, it didn't matter too much because see, so 10th was the first thing, right? I mean, I believe so. I think that's the first step when you kind of step out of your known boundaries. So you are knowing who's probably giving you the question set, who's setting the paper, who's checking your answer scripts, what's the mentality, what's the thought process of that particular person, and I believe. So as we grow up, right? As we grow up in the schooling system, I believe until at least for me until seventh, eighth. I never used to care about who's going to check my paper, etc. here and there. But when we entered kind of the ninth standard, 10th standard, I remember like okay, it's kind of easy to manipulate your answers as far if you know right, who's going to do this, who's going to check your answer script. If you, I mean, it's easier to guess what sort of question paper you are going to get if you know who's probably setting the question paper and all of these things. So when you are in a school of multiple different sections, there are a lot of students here and there. So you always try to kind of track all of these things. So coming from that background, 10th, it's the first time that you are going for an unknown. You are banking on your preparation and you are trying to test yourself on the basis of what sort of preparations you have done. And I think once that was out, it was out, right? So and that's the big testimony of, how do you know about your limits, or how can you assess yourself upon your own expectations. I think in retrospect, that's the best part I feel about, in terms of uh, those board exams and all of these things. Well, necessarily never. I mean, nobody even asked. I don't remember. Even in one interview, I was about to crack a joke, to asking Rajarshi that, how much does it matter in a public sector setup, because we both belong to a different entity altogether, and I doubt it really matters. And but yeah, I think yeah, 12th, I don't remember even anybody asking me about all of those things. I don't know how much did you score here and there. But yeah, it was nice always probably to score good numbers, because it looked good. At least to me, I don't know. Like, this is also very uh, difficult to say what is good or bad and how much do you expect out of yourself. And Rajarshi talked about a lot of other aspects, like, when do you peak, how and when do you peak in your career, part of stuff, and all of these things. Yeah, I believe from that, right, marks are just uh, these small touch points in your entire span of life, right? You always go through some peaks and troughs, and there will always be ups and downs. You will not always be kind of in the same velocity, in the same stage where you are. So as long as you are doing good, you are doing good. But yeah, it's important that
It's
you
just
you
this,
start. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell you something. The slope upwards of life, the class 10 and 12 exam is just a part of it. But when a student is in that class 10 board exams, now, during that time, there is so much hype, there is so much pressure on him to perform. And there is this, everybody around him is telling him that this is the most important exam of your life. If you don't do well in this one, not even well, if you don't do your best, if you are not the best, if you don't come first in all India, does not matter what is the scale of
Oh, I was
competition.
I was lucky enough not to get such sort of narratives out there, probably.
Yeah, but it
But yeah,
happens.
no. So yeah,
Like
this was always portrayed, right? This is a very important, very significant part of this and that, all of these things. But in retrospection, right? If I remember, I think this was, as a student, to me, passing fifth was also as good as a challenge than passing. I mean, or like, than passing 10th, or probably these things. So the only difference
no,
that
but
probably
no, but
probably
after class 10, when you top class 10, there are Shangbadiks and newspaper people coming to your home and they treat you like a celebrity. Like, how many hours did you study and what are you going to do in future? He's going to be an engineer like everybody. I don't know what is my class 10 topper doing right now. Probably he's an engineer, most highly likely. But they will say something, and every other class 10 people who did not do good, they will be depressed. कि, अरे यार ये तो मेरे साथ ही स्कूल जाता था, but now like he's on TV or he's on Facebook. So the hype that is created, same as the UPSC, that it's just the beginning of his career. He has not done anything till now. He has just qualified to do something good. So to treat it as much as a reference as we do, no doubt he has excelled, he has done a good thing, but we do not have to like place so give so much focus and so much importance to this one result. There are pre-tests, tests, exams going on, while we are just giving half yearly
did you
annual for up
did,
to
did,
class 9.
did, did you
Hmm?
know this in January of 2009?
What happened? People came to your house.
No, no, I'm saying, did you know the exact thing that this is not so significant back in January of
No, that
2009?
is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. I can
Yeah.
still remember the exact moment when, like, this NCRT publishes its results in internet now. So I can remember this thing, like the web page loading, and I see me seeing my result. It was kind of traumatic because although I got good marks, but what the hell is going to happen? I don't know. Same with class 12 results and JE results. I think I remember that moment more than probably I remember my first kiss. So even so this is more ingrained in my memory, and I think this is a common trauma experience of every Indian middle class child, that they will face this issue. Every one of your relative is calling and they want to know how much you scored, and it's like, oh my god, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
I'm now going
So
now. So how much does societal pressure So whenever class 10, 12 result comes, some mossy from some area who never spoke you in last 5 years, हेलो बेटा रिजल्ट कैसा हुआ, ऐसा आता है ना बंगाली में रिजल्ट
No,
कैसा
I
हलो
think
करके.
yeah,
So
but I don't know if I have heard this narrative enough and kind of also seen it in lot of my acquaintances in my families here and there, etc. Of course, not my family, but my relatives, etc. Here and there, people have always talked about this. But luckily for me, right, there was nobody who never talked to me came to know my result and all of these things. And after my result, actually, right. So as I mentioned my numbers and all of these things, momentarily I felt like I could do better. So yes, I probably not stood as per my expectations. I don't know, like was it a higher expectation than me or whatever. I probably did not prepare well, or I could not execute well in the exam hall, or whatever could be the reason. So I at that point in time I felt like a lot of people essentially try to ensure me that the way you are looking at it, they came and tried to make me understand or realize that the way you are looking at it, it's not the same thing. So whatever you have achieved, probably you are not meeting your own expectations, but uh, I mean, from an outside view, it's not
You
that
did
bad
well.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So I
it's not
applaud you.
that bad
That's a
as
good
well.
thing. That's such a positive thing to do. That's very nice. But
Yeah,
that
and I remember. I think when I was kind of talking about these things. I mean, yeah, I remember last year or last year. It was probably last year. One of my cousin essentially appeared her 10th, and I was kind of also talking to her about this. She was also very anxious about it. Like nobody, people will come and ask me the result and all of this and that. Then I told, see, I mean, I don't know how many years back it happened. Like 14 years back now, it seems 14, 15 years back. When it happened to me, I was also anxious, but this is not what or how things happen essentially. Because at times people are. I think this is also kind of a made up story. I mean, uh, has it happened that who has never talked to you, probably even before your examination, is going to come and call you and ask you? I feel like that's pretty a dramatized version of
this
the narrative.
story is
Which
little
it's happened.
exaggerated,
I think
obviously.
I think it has happened with me. It we don't we are not much impacted by it because we scored well, or at least what is judged well in the society. But think about the people who failed, or the students who commit suicide after failing. They do not commit suicide right after they know their results. They commit suicide 1 week after, 2 weeks after, because that's when that this aas pados ka pressure gets to them. And the pressure is felt more by the parents, I think, because when you are a child, you don't know about society, don't bother much about society. You are much more bothered about your parents. It depends upon the parents. It's the responsibility of the parents to let their children know that whatever they scored is fine. And what we are discussing right now, the parents also know that, right? They also pass this phase, that these exams are not going to matter. Like it's not like they are going to not matter at all, but it's not the most important thing, no most important factor for success or happiness in one's life. So they can give this much reassurance. And the teachers are so important, and the teachers are so biased. You won't find a Bengali teacher today who teaches believing that their student will grow up to be a Bengali professor or an author or a poet. They also know that everyone is going to go to engineering or medical. So, what motivation do they have? They teach in this frame. There is this template, and they are part of this template in which the students who fall behind or who score bad are looked down upon. It's so sad that the people who are not scoring well, the teachers are actually accusing them, or the teachers look down upon them. Everybody's favorite child is the first boy, and there is pressure on the first boy as well, because I never came first in my class, but I realized that coming first once is easy, but holding that first position for year after year, that is a separate kind of pressure, because there's so much expectations from you, from everyone, right? So these are the society of a child, like his friends, his teachers, his parents. So if the immediate core of his surroundings is okay, then I think the external influence will not matter as much. But that's
this,
not what
I
happens.
I feel this has changed over a period of time, right? As I now see kind of, or probably I don't know. This has probably then changed, at least in my circle, or those whom I kind of hang around with here and there, my seniors, my colleagues, etc. I think now people don't care much about it. I feel, and the students are kind of now, they are also, they have their own pressure. I mean, that's what I always felt like. Now, at least in tier one cities, those societal pressures have kind of come down, and of course we have also become very narrow in terms of our circles. We have also very like kind of very nuclear families,
Yeah.
etc. Here,
Our
here
social
and
circles
there.
are very small.
Yeah, so social circles are very less, and what I've observed is people do hang around with people from their age only. Like for us, uh, how often or how frequent we used to visit a relative, etc. Stuff. Now these days, kids, what I've observed is they are not very much into it, right? So for them, it like and uh, yeah, here in India, at least people do recognize their relatives here and there. That's what I have seen. But if I've seen in my first hand like kids from Singapore, kids from Dubai and Middle East and here and there. So like once they start growing up, like from sixth, seventh onward, they don't even care about who's there coming in, visiting their house and etc. and all of these things. So so they start to hang around with their own people, their own comfort zones or comfortable groups kind of a thing. And I feel those societal pressure part of the things have now started to come down a bit. Yeah, it is still prevalent in the bigger aspect of the society, but at a very narrow place. Or I think this change is happening and it's happening for good. But yeah,
I think the active, what
self-induced
Nirupam
pressure
is
is still
saying
there.
is that the physically someone coming to your house or someone calling you may have decreased, but take the aspect of social media. Say you have the class 10 results have declared, you have got maybe 80%, you are happy, then you go to social media and see that everybody has got 90%. That is, those 90% scoring people are not posting it to make you sad, but ultimately it affects you in some way because you are a child, you wanted to do good and you thought you did well, but now you are seeing that there are so many people who did better, right?
No, I think here comes the responsibility of the parents, the caregivers, the teachers, and whom a kid is essentially indulging with in day out. Right. So there is you have to make that kid believe that there is always somebody who is much better than you, and there is somebody who is always much worse than you. Now, at the end of the day, if you are comparing yourself with everybody in the world, you cannot just do this. So I think it's our job as kind of seniors, as going whenever you like people like us who are going to be parents and all of these things. I think it's our job to make it much more easy, or teach them how to take it easy. So there will always be somebody, and you that's what I mentioned in the first part of this conversation, right? So you essentially are testing and you are trying to prove your own expectations out from here, right? So if you are doing good against your expectations, I think this is much better. I think yeah, that's where it is. And to the point, saying somebody calling up and all of these things, yeah, I've seen in a very small circle. I mean, yeah, of course, my uh, set here is too small probably. But yeah, I've seen people like they have started questioning. Okay, this person has never called me up and asked me how I am doing during the entire preparation phase. Why would I even get bothered about what he or she thinks about my result? He has got nothing to do with this. Anyway, number one. Number two, yeah, if he is kind of an well wisher, he is calling me to congratulate me on what I have done. It's okay, it's accepted. If he is here to kind of, okay, so no, my boy or my neighbor has done much better than you, etc., kind of stuff, go you deal with your stuff. I'm not pretty much interested in this. So I've also seen this sort of a change happening within these days kids. So yeah, and it's appreciable. I think it's much more than them. Their environment to which they are exposed, the surroundings to which they are kind of getting acquainted, or they are talking day in day out. I think that should also be given that due credit.
Okay, I'll mention one social pressure which is still relevant. Okay, nowadays in Agartala, also in other T1 or T2 states or cities also, you'll see mothers accompany their child to the tuition center, right? And a lot of mothers will sit together while the child is in tuition. They'll sit together and gossip and find out. Then this question will come up: how much your son or daughter scored in this exam, right? So the pressure is not on the child, actually pressure is on the parents, and parents in turn put the pressure on the child. Because of you, I have to hear from so and so, so you have to score good in 12th. Because you didn't score nice in 10th, now it's the pressure is on you to score good in 12th. So this is still there. I'll tell you one thing. Recently the class 12th and 10th results were declared for CBSE. One person whom I never spoken with, but they know my result, and I have scored nice in class 10th when I was in class 10th. So now they call me and say, see, my son has scored this much. I said, yeah, congrats. So that's still there in T1, T2, TS cities is still there. So that's one aspect. I
Ce-
mean, this most the
Celebrity
pressure comes
Manoj
from the
setting
parents.
benchmark across.
I think there's this one kid, one child in the whole bongsho or in the whole dynasty who sets a benchmark, and every other cousins and brothers and
And your
sisters
life
beat this person.
That's for
and
life.
your life goes chasing that person.
Yes, that's
Right.
but
Hmm.
in India there is so much competition that you cannot avoid it anywhere. Like when we gave joint entrance, there were like 13 lakh other people. I mean, what this crazy numbers, right? There are 13 lakh will be the population of some states in foreign countries, right? But there are just kids of one batch in 1 year passing out, and we are supposed to be in the top. If we are not in the top 5% or top 1%, 2%, then we are not supposed to be good students. That does not make any kind of sense if you go by the mathematical percentage term. But if you go by the rank, then oh, your rank is like 40,000. But this 40,000 is out of 12 lakhs. So it's pretty good. It's not bad. So, but the result of is this that the students they don't get to have the freedom of like expanding their thinking or doing some imagination, creative thinking, critical thinking. I think we'll come to that when we come to the education system of India.
Okay. Now, let's say out of all this pressure right now, after plus two, which is class 12, now a student will either go for engineering and doctor or medical or any other similar field. Some may go for science related streams and all. Now, at our time when we are in class 10 to 12, we had this tendency that we'll go for Z examination, then AIPMT examination. Now, do you think the same way also now also it's going, and that engineering or medical now also is it going like or now there is a shift in the career choices, how people are going to select their career and so on. What is your feeling right now?
Yeah. So I think there are multiple aspects, right? When we are talking about here, if you are talking about the large overall India, I think the trend is much more stronger than what we faced at our point in time. But if you are talking about very selective tier one, tier two Indias, I think the trend is changing also. So there are of course a lot of people nowadays who are caring about becoming a CA. They are caring about going for fashion designing. They are caring about going for architecture as very specific, very narrow fields. Despite knowing that this is not kind of as broad as a thing as an engineering or medical is. So engineering, to be honestly, is a very generalist category, right? I mean, it's a pretty generalistic approach. You see a lot of engineers coming out and then they do change their mind and do here and there. I'm not saying others don't, but it's pretty common in engineering. But medical kind of stuff is still pretty. They are very focused, I'll say, in like more or less. But I do see that change or the trend happening, changing in tier one cities again. But in tier twos, tier threes, and in other India where the internet penetration is now happening, and people who has kind of at one point in time, uh, took those one of an engineer out of their, I don't know, out of their village, out of their locality, or maybe three, four, five in a town, sort of a thing, coming out of a good, graduating from a good engineering college, etc. They are now getting those, as I think we talked about it very earlier about that. In our time there was not so much penetration of internet and all of these things. Now, since these things are available, I think availability of resources has become much easier, and that has uh, like boomed the trend of going for your PMT. I mean, it's not PMT any further; it's NEET or your JEE mains or advanced or whatever you call. But in very small pockets, in very small urban India, I think the trend is changing as well. I mean, this is my observation, if I could say, at least from last few years.
So, what I feel is when you talk about India, it's such a diverse, such a big country that
Yeah.
whatever you say, there is an opposite to it. So, what we grew up to believe is that first you have to do engineering and then you go for MBA or you go for opening your own company. Startups are on the rise now. And I feel that there is a rising bunch of youngsters who have this tag of influencers, social media influencers. which some see it as as cheap entertainment. But what I see is there are people who are singing, there are people who are dancing, people who make money by showing their art. The rise in audience due to the internet penetration all over India has led these people to follow their passions, to go after what they want without worrying about how this will make them money. So there are people who are becoming chefs, and they are showing up their recipes, their cooking, and there are people who are podcasters like you. So I think if the
I,
it's not my
I was
belief.
just about to, sorry to interrupt. I was just about to say this. Like, we are now seeing a new age social media kind of. I don't know if he's still an entrepreneur or not, but yeah, at least the social media influencer, right with us,
Yeah,
right? So
Okay. No,
that's what I'm
I see
saying.
this. I see this
Yeah.
differently. You mentioned it rightly about now the career choice is going towards influencers. Right now, people are finding it easy to start something with their mobile phones and all. But as far as I am seeing near me, and so far, whatever analysis I have done on the social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, in 5 years or upcoming, everyone will become an influencer. Everyone, I'm telling you about. Now we started in Facebook, we started posting status, right, when Facebook came, and then we started whom we are hanging with, like Manas with 50 others people going to see a movie. Now slowly everyone will start giving video updates, not immediately definitely, but at some point of time you will see everyone is on the video, everyone is on the YouTube, everyone is on the reels and everything. Slowly it will become integral part of our system. Interviews also start happening there itself, you'll see slowly, and that's going to be a trend.
Yes.
I've seen some IT companies now starting interviews on the social media based on your presence or the activities, creative skill set. Based on
Yes,
that, they're hiring.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes.
So your profile in LinkedIn is so important for people to gauge what you are doing. I mean,
Yes.
I am in a pretty traditional industry, but from what I read or I listen to people who are successful, they say that if you are adding something of value consistently to your audience, then it's only a matter of time before you can monetize your content. I'm not saying that you will have like millions or billions of people. No, but it's not. It will be your source of income, maybe primary source of income, so that you can dedicatedly do this thing. Unfortunately, India is one of those countries in which going for an experimentative stuff, going for even opening a business is so much discouraged. Joining a private company is so much discouraged. Joining a government company is considered so much safer. Due to this bias, there are thousands of lakhs of students, crores of students who spend their entire 20s preparing for government jobs instead of experimenting with this stuff. Like, I understand that there are a class of poor people who cannot afford to experiment, but there is also a significant middle class in India now, the rising middle class, which can afford, if the parents want, they can afford to let their child experiment for 1 or 2 years. If they fail, they go back to the mainstream way. But nobody, I hardly see any parents who will support their child's decision to be a band guitarist and post their stuff on social media. They will even think that it's shameful. They'll be like, "Log kya kehte hain, that dur ka rishtedar who had asked for your percentage will come and take away your guitar." So the social influence comes here also. I think without that, if we did not have that, if we let the kids, the parents are supposed to be in the Modern Family serial, they said this nice line that let your child shoot for the stars. So if they fail, then you become their parent shoot. Parent shoot is like a parachute that saves you from falling, that keeps you from falling. In India, the scenario is totally opposite. Mostly the poor people or the child is expected to be the parachute of the parent when they grow old. So if the child is doing the experimentation and the parents feel like, okay, I have supported him for 25 years and now he expects me to support him for 5 more years or 10 more years. The irony of the fact is that when he's preparing for a government exam, then also he is being supported by his parents only. It's not like he has a source of income. So ultimately, it's not generating him any wealth. But he's going for this mainstream thing even after failing. It's impossible that out of like 10 crores of youth, the government jobs, if you see the latest politics also, there are like 10 lakhs government jobs vacant. So even if all those government jobs are filled up, it does not even fill up like 1% of the total unemployed youth. But they do not want to consider this maths because of all this hype that is created around the mainstream jobs. Successful private jobs also, they are so much sought after that experimentation lags behind a lot.
Right. So one more
Yeah, I
point I
think
have is the career choices of individual is decided by their family's financial condition. If someone is lower middle class or in the poor section of the society, they'll always seek for a job, stable job, which in that case may be a government job or something similar. And if someone is in the middle class or upper middle class, they will always go for hobby based career choices. But you will not see that again, societal division determines the career choices. If someone is poor, they'll only think about how the food is going to be there on their plate the next month and so on. I'm going news style, but yeah, that's the fact. Yeah.
I think
yeah,
that's a
I think
factor
say
of making the rich people richer and the poor people poorer. Okay, Nirupam.
well,
Yeah.
fortunately or unfortunately, that's anyway going to happen, right? And the baseline which we are drawing at this point in time is all from those kind of capitalist economies, right? Where and what you just mentioned, Rajarshi, like it's the typical economy, right? When demand supply is so much and demand is sorry, the supply is so less and demanded so more, essentially it's going to be more precious. So that's how, out of this, since it caters to less than 1% or maybe 1% of the demand, these public sector jobs or these government jobs are kind of so crazy and so sought after. Well, there is also, I believe, there is a different part of looking at it, which Manas just rightly mentioned a few minutes back, that everybody at some point in time needs a hedging of their entire life. Right? So I think the social security, the security or the state of mind which affirms you that okay, be it whatever you go through, whatever it is, you are not going to fall. So what you mentioned, Rajarshi, that the parents should be those parachutes, or like they kind of take or absorb the shock of you falling and give that hedging for you. I think unfortunately we are at one point in time, I mean, or even the entire nation is such in such a state at this point in time that not everybody in the nation can afford this. And as we grow towards our more kind of we are now talking about, I mean, keeping all those politics and all of these apart, right? I mean, of course, if I say something, it might sound like politically biased and all of these things, but keeping everything aside, what we are aiming for as a country, or at least what we are hearing now that the country is aiming for, is to increase those per capita GDP and this and that, which essentially means uh, as a nation we are going to have more, or we are going to have more discretionary income for everybody at a ground level also. As this and this happens, it's of course that 1% of that creamy layer is going to take away the majority of it. But even that, as and when the hedge becomes much more stronger, it can absorb. The more shock it can absorb, I believe you will see an entire generation coming out and doing all those experimentations. So every experimentation needs a funding, right? It's not a monetary funding always. At times it's kind of a social funding, at times it's an emotional funding. It's anything. So yeah, I think we know we have our demographic dividend, we have our kind of youth, and if luckily that income source and streams essentially uh, grow up, what trends we are seeing in tier one cities, it will also start happening in tier
Yeah,
twos. But of course, we have to be
it's
very
like
cautious about doing this. Like
we see
we should.
changes so often and so fast now that we forget that we as a nation we are just 75 years old. There are people who
Yeah,
are more older than our nation, right? So until upon the 1970s, 1980s, there was practically no middle class. Everybody were poor, right? So
yeah,
changing an entire mindset, changing your thoughts about how your life should be. As per our parents, our grandparents, our life should be that we do a job up to 60 years and then we go for retirement. We take care of our children, grandchildren. Then we do some tirth and die. When you talk to them about fire, that I will fast income and retire early, they will fire you because their head cannot like fathom this concept that why are you going to retire? What are you going to do with your time? So they don't understand that today's generation values time more than money. That maybe I will live in a little house, I will have a choti gari, but मैं खुश रहूंगा. You know the Three Idiots dialogue. So So this change is happening with very fast. Like a 20-year-old person and me maybe will have a generational gap even about how they see their life and how I am seeing my future. So coming to this, when we compare it with a first world country, the education and the schools play a huge role in maintaining this. Unfortunately, our education system, our syllabus is so I would say backward, but it's so traditional that there is no scope for like encouraging a child to go for business or encouraging them to follow something that they like. Suppose a child likes to cook. Not a child, suppose someone of class 11, 12 likes to cook. How will a school contribute to his passion? There's no way. On the other hand, like I see this vlog, it's called Probashe Ghorkonna. I think all the women watch this. I also watch this for some reason. It's very nice. So it's about a lady who stays in America, and she has children, and her children go to school. In her school, there was this program in which the children were given a fake shop, a small fake shop to manage with fake currencies, fake money, and they were asked to sell and buy like organically grown farmed crops. So that is such a like unique idea. It's not big in scale. It does not require a lot of money. But through this, the children are learning the basics of business, right? Hands on. There are schools in I forgot whether it's China or Japan, where they teach you the basic life skills. They teach you how to cook. They teach you how to clean, right? So it's from these basics that a child can take out what he wants, what he or she wants. So, but in our system, like even the games period, in the games period, the sir will come and he will teach maths. Or it's the other way, that there is a games period, but there's no infrastructure. So you will like bat with a chalakart, which is fond
Maths
memories.
teacher will
I will
come
not
and
lie,
say,
but
I'll teach maths now.
yes.
Right. So recently, I was listening to one podcast by Nikhil Kamath, the founder of Zerodha. So there he was mentioning the current generation. He was in a podcast with the latest generation, I mean, Gen Z entrepreneurs. So where they're discussing about current generation doesn't want, as you Rajesh rightly mentioned, they don't want to buy any house. They don't want to buy any car. They prefer Ola, Uber better than any car. They just want to get some earning and spend it on them, spend it on experience more than any assets or liabilities. They just want to do
Yes,
something on experience. So they want to roam countries, they want to go for a vacation, stay there for some time, stay in that country to feel how the natives stay there, and so on. So the dynamics are slowly changing, but that everything depends on the money that one is having in their hand or in their bank balance. Ultimately, that is what determines the things.
You know, the
No, I think
digital
go
nomads
ahead.
is such a rise. The freelancers who are called the digital nomads, who go to like who take the advantage of the currency discrepancy, they will earn in say rupees or dollars and spend it in Bali, where the currency is so much cheaper. So if you tell them to get married and get settled to have kids, they will like that is a lifestyle they cannot even fathom. And Indians are not much mainstream into that right now, but it's happening. It's slowly happening. Unfortunately, in our mind, talking about wealth is also considered like a sin. Like if you're talking about wealth, if you're talking about how much money you have, or if you ask someone what are you doing with your money, then discussing a discussion about money is something that is to be avoided, which is actually causing us a disadvantage, because we don't come to know how to like use our wealth to generate more wealth, right? The people who know, they cannot share this knowledge, because even if they want to, it will come off as arrogant or like show off, kind of like that.
Yeah, okay. So mainly, as I have seen in this, because I have gone to multiple schools actually just to tell them about career choices, because I am from a Navodaya Vidyalaya system. So in Tripura itself, there are many schools are there. So I have been there in that schools just to educate them about various career options after plus two. So in there, I have asked most of the students, what is your career aspiration? What do you want to become? So every one of them have either said like, I want to become an engineer or I want to become a doctor, majorly. But there were some surprises. Someone said like, I want to become a pilot, I want to be president of India, and so on. It comes up, which is not, yeah, which is not impossible thing. It's definitely possible. But majorly, if you see, only for all this, no, only graduation is required in any stream. It can be engineering, just to get any government job. if you want to, because the tier 2 or tier 3 cities will only look for government jobs. In those cases only graduation is required. You can do it in science, you can do it in arts, you can do it in commerce or anything. After that, if you pursue something in the examinations, you will be eligible to appear for that. And one more thing that I think Rajarshi and Nirupam, both of you will also agree. There are some examinations like UPSC. There are some examinations like similar, which takes a lot of time to complete. In first attempt not done, second attempt not done. But I've seen people who are only doing that only 31 years, 32 years. They're doing on that only.
Yeah.
There is no secondary income to fall back on. At some point, they'll be disappointed because their age also will cross that attempt age. Then they'll be disheartened. So that aspect should not be there. So what's your take on that?
I'll
Where
tell you
people
one
are,
irony of the
yeah.
UPSC preparation. Like I also prepared for UPSC, I didn't crack it, but it was fun. When we are in class 8, class 9, the CBSE people, we generally focus so much on maths, bio, chemistry, and physics. And our pol science books, economics books, history books, geography books, they are not even touched. You will find the same students after 10 years in Rajendra Nagar reading those left out books of pol science, economics, geography, and history, because now they are preparing for UPSC and they have to study those same books because the curriculum has not changed in all these years. So yeah, it's true. The constancy of our NCERT books amidst all the things that are changing, it's very like incredible.
Manas reminded me of Sanjeev Sanyal. Somewhere in a podcast, he told that UPSC, I mean, the entire generation or entire youth of a generation is going behind preparing those UPSC examinations. I think we touched upon this same part again and again because of the less supply, the aspiration of how people want to be, and all of these things. But yeah, this is unfortunately the truth. And
And moreover, the series like Aspirants and movies like 12th Fail is fueling that. Please go glamorizing this concept of going
Yeah,
behind UPSC.
it's so annoying.
yeah, I
They're
mean,
showing the
see, at
good
the end
parts.
of the
They're
day,
not showing the hardships.
Yeah, they are not showing the ones who fail. They are not showing the
Ah,
ones who don't get a chance. Like at the end of the day, we know this guy will get a chance. In spite of him being a 12th fail, he will get into UPSC. And that happens. But it's like once in a blue moon, right? So why make a story about them? Make a story about the people who could not pass, right?
yeah, I think that's what I think, right? So I think we mentioned, we talked about it already. That our education system never entertains a failure. It's always
Yeah, what I'm
like,
saying, market-oriented education system should be of the college. And also what
yeah,
I feel is that in America, the senior school means 4 years of specialization. Like we have 2 years of science, they
yeah,
have four
yeah.
years of specialization. So they have more time for the child to acclimatize to that subject before they go on to college or higher studies. So maybe that is also something that is needed. And like basic things like computer, I think emails have been now introduced in schools curriculum, but they are writing emails in the copy. They are writing it with their pen. Okay, programs. I have seen that programs people are writing in exams in their copies and not in their laptops or computers because they will cheat. Teachers are afraid that they will cheat.
we have
So
we have written in our
ultimately, it's
graduation.
not like a full education. Maybe it's creating some value, but it's not giving them a full education, which is like need of the hour.
Thank you for watching this episode till the end. If you have watched up to this, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Share it on WhatsApp in any WhatsApp group where you think that this may benefit your friends or your colleagues or your juniors or your brothers, sisters. Thank you. Keep watching.